What it do, what it don't. Welcome back. Happy Wednesday, happy hump day. This is 17 and some change. I'm Adhd 17, bringing you my 2 cents. Bam. Um, I actually forgot that I had a show today. Um, I started classes for the summer yesterday. So today I was reading chapter one um to kind of get ahead on personality. Chapter one on personality. um it is motorcycle season soon, around here. um I am I should kind of actually be out there today, tomorrow. um I have my bike. I didn't. It sounds dumb to say out loud. I didn't store it properly over the winter. This is my second. This is my third year with it. This is gonna be my third summer with it. I didn't store it properly over the winter. So the chain is pretty rusty. Um, So I'm gonna have to spray some W40 on it and then bring it to drive it to um, the proverbial shop, so to speak, and see if it's rideable or if I have to like replace the chain or whatnot. Hopefully I don't have to replace the chain or whatnot, but um yeah. Um so there's that. Motorcycles are fun. Motorcycles are really fun. Um, you gotta be careful. You gotta be like safe and stuff like that. Um, s- so I'm gonna, so like, let's move on. You can see how excited I am to talk about the next topic. The next topic I got on here is Saquon, Saquon Barkley being on the cover of Madden. Um, I mean, if I, to the extent that I am still a football fan, like I grew up a Cowboy fan. Barkley, the Giant, and the Eagle. I mean, he's a great talent. I appreciate great talents, where great talents are. Um, that cover, like, everybody's saying it's a Jaguar player, and I'm not somebody to like. I mean, they could be right. Uniforms, like there's special edition uniforms that teams wear throughout the year and stuff like that. But from my point of view, that didn't look like a Jaguars uniform. I know Saquon was filmed doing that jump in a studio, so I don't know if what's been shown as the cover is that studio Photoshop, but a lot of people are still calling the defender a Jaguar. Um, I but from that angle where you see like the crown of the player's helmet, that doesn't look like a Jaguar. I have seen another angle where it looks like a Jaguar, but I at least I think I have. But no, yeah, yeah. Um my the birds that were in my wall, they like were growing up. They were like migrating as they like, and then there was like one left, and but they were still hanging out. and stuff, like they're gone now. I kind of made a fuss. I kind of like started like banging on the wall and like going out there with a broom and like spraying vinegar around the hole. And so like yeah, they don't, bro, like it got to a point, dude, like it was mad ominous. Like it was crazy. Like there was one day where I don't know which one of these instances to tell first to increase the dramatization, but I guess I'll just tell it in the natural order that it occurred. One day I was like, I don't know, banging on the wall or like scaring them off. Yeah, because like every time I went to my window, like if there was one like right above, it would scare away like one of the larger ones. I was messing with them somehow, like trying to shoot them. And I would say about like seven of them just like circled like directly in front of me, and like I was making eye contact with like seven of these birds, and they're black birds, and and it was just ominous. It was just like because they were making noises too, like um they're not fun noises. And I don't know, there was like a stare down there, you know what I'm saying? And it was like shit was about to pop off or something. And and then like a few days later, I look out my window, and like they left like worms and shit like by like my window, like by like the platform underneath my window. And like so I go out there with a broom and I broom that shit off. I sweep that shit, I broom that shit off. And I sweep that shit off, and I start waving I started like waving the broom in the air at them. And like even the ones that, cause they'll like fly in and then they'll so sometimes I'm like getting my baseball swing, like, you guys, man, y'all gonna catch it. And all the while I'm like 3 stories in the air and got neighbors. Like, imagine seeing that, like some dude standing on the platform of his shit, like swinging around a broom trying to but yeah, nah, like they don't, you leave them alone, they were gonna take over my house. They were gonna like kick me out soon. Like I had to do some shit. Like, but they're gone. I stuffed the freaking hole. I gotta cover it with like an actual, because I don't know what they did with the tile that they removed to get to the hole or whatever. But I could get like a new tile or whatever. Um, so I actually wanted to kind of talk about ADHD a little bit today. Um, I did a Q&A with my friend ChatGPT this morning, or like just prior to recording this podcast. So I'm gonna kind of go through that with you guys. Um, Kind of how our Q&A went down. Um, ADHD is something that I'm familiar with. I was formally diagnosed at a very young age, or not a super young age, but at um I guess the age where it becomes evident. I was it was my I was in the first grade, and for the first time. And yeah, so I was lucky that they caught it early. I was I did the medication thing off and on. So I kind of have, you know, experience with both of that. Um, it was kind of uh like ignored within like the context of family. Like that wasn't something that we kind of uh spoke to or gave credence to. Um, Medications, it, even though medications made it um a night and day scenario as far as academic coursework is concerned. And I don't get me wrong, I'm not advocating for stimulants in regards to the treatment of ADHD, but it was the difference for me. It was the difference between D's and F's and A's and B's, um, and that's non-exaggeratory. That is without any exaggeration. So it was night and day in the classroom, but I wouldn't talk to anybody. I wouldn't care about anything in the world except for the next worksheet, the next lesson, the next it it was absolute hyper focus on coursework when I had that medication. I don't know if it was because um the 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 medication unlocking the hyper focus, but then me aiming the hyper focus towards academic success, being like, yeah, well, this is the one thing that I could never obtain prior, but with this substance, with this pill, um, I can aim the hyper focus towards schoolwork as opposed to, yeah, I just kind of got caught up with like implications, and I'm not gonna go down any further rabbit holes. Um, so I do have a Q and A that I want to touch that I want to do here. It says it says what is ADHD and how does it differ from just being inattentive or impulsive sometimes. Um, yeah, inattention and impulsivity are components. These are certain symptoms of ADHD. Um, you know, Formerly known as ADD, and ADHD technically or colloquially it is just an acronym for attention deficit hyperactive disorder, and then prior to they had taken out the H, so it was just attention deficit disorder. Um, I I think a more apropos, and I talk about this in my book, not to like shamelessly throw um, self advertise, but Um, I don't think that name is appropriate. Um, I think a more fitting term could be um, attention regulation disorder. Um, it's not a lack of attention per se. It's uh, uh, an inability to. So the best way I like to describe it, the best way I've heard um, a description is um, a flashlight type style of attention. If you can visualize attention to an idea as a bead from a flashlight, then you can imagine that a person who is neurotypical would be able to harness that beam towards what they choose at any given time. Whereas somebody with ADHD um, doesn't have the a mechanism of choice in regards to what that flashlight is honing in on. Um, it's a situation where the true distinction is um, intent. It's the regulation of attention. Um, and by regulation I mean intent, because your ability to focus as a person with ADHD isn't compromised. It's in certain ways enhanced, believe it or not. And that's we might get into hyper focus later. It's not the ability to focus that is compromised, it's the ability to choose what to focus on. There is a lack of dopamine production um, that causes attention to only be used on dopamine producing things. Um, so by default, the person with ADHD focuses on what is emotionally prevalent to them. Um, this is one analogy. Another analogy that I like um, to explain the idea of you know thinking of it as attention regulation disorder as opposed to attention deficit disorder is the idea of um channels. It's like channel surfing, but like it's not that you don't have the remote and that you can't choose which channel you want to watch. It's that like unless that channel is good, like it's going to, unless you like that channel, like it's gonna change itself. It's like the channels know that you don't like it, and so it changes itself. And like anything, anytime there's an association made, um, that's gonna change the channel. Um, I also like the analogy of tabs on a computer screen. Tabs on a computer where they that are typically multiple running at the same time. I mean, you've seen people who have 36 tabs open at the same time on their computer, and I don't know. I mean, I'd like to do a test. I guess that a large percentage of them had some sort of ADHD adjacent diagnosis. Um, but yeah, it really is like a lot of tabs popping open and shutting um, when you're operating with ADHD and stuff like that, right? But the question asked like, what is it and how does it differ from just being inattentive or impulsive? And I think I spoke to the attention aspect of it a lot in my answer. But another part of it is, executive functioning. Um, Executive functioning will be things like um, prioritization, um, starting and stopping tasks, um, organizing. These types of uh, administrative type things take an impact, and starting and stopping tasks is a big one, and so are the other two. Not being able to prioritize the things that you want to do and being disorganized, like these are huge deals. These aren't little things here. Um, it says you mentioned executive functioning. Can you think of a time where you or somebody with ADHD experienced this type of executive dysfunction, like getting stuck on a task or having trouble prioritizing? If so, share an example. And yeah, like you know, it is not uncommon for somebody with ADHD to, you know, pace the environment uh for for hours as opposed to engaging in a task because their executive functioning disorder has essentially paralyzed them. And this isn't it's classic. That's a classic scenario. And then ChatGPT brings up um it brings up 3 points. One of them was the underactive dopamine system, which helps the brain say that this task is important and let's do this task. Without enough of that, it doesn't feel rewarding, so you pace and ruminate instead. And this is part of the reason that I don't advocate. Well, maybe I do advocate, but like this is part of the reason that I can't Um, yeah, yeah, this is part of the reason that I can't be against marijuana. This is part of the reason that I like marijuana, to the extent that I do like marijuana. Um, it's it's the same with tea or cigarettes or coffee or candy, ice cream. Um, People with ADHD are infamous for using these types of self-medicating substances to initiate tasks. So it's like, I'm not gonna sit down and do this essay, but I'll sit down and do this essay with a joint or with a cup of tea or so I mean you see it, um or like a little candy or something like that. How do you or someone you know handle situations where there are too many options or steps and it becomes hard to choose where to start? What strategies, if any, help you navigate that? Um, so that's a twofold answer. It starts with ultimately having decided on the direction that I'm heading. I ultimately had to hash out what upward looks like, generally speaking, as it pertains to me in multiple areas of my life. What does upwards look like financially? What does it look like uh, business wise? What does it look like creative endeavor wise? What does it look like physical and mental health wise, right? So it's about uh laying out or envisioning what is upwards to you. And then it's um I like to um no, and I'll mention keeping options open later on. One of these questions they prompt me to speak on keeping your options open. Um, so I like to look at tasks. I like to have a few tasks that I could do that would be, equally productive, and and um, and I'll ask myself like, okay, so if I'm gonna do X, and I put myself in those shoes, I'm like, all right, so how do I feel? How's that gonna make me feel doing X right now? Right. And then so like I'll put myself in the shoes of Y and be like, all right, so how am I gonna feel if I do Y right now? And then Z, like how am I gonna feel if I do Z? And then I'll weigh those, um and having that underpinning of knowing which direction. I mean, all those goals, all those things that I lay out to do are gonna head me in that direction. Um, and then so I'll just see which one kind of feels the best. You have multiple options of productive things that you could do that gets you to your ultimate goals. And rest is a productive thing. Grounding yourself is a productive thing. Taking a break can be a productive thing. You know, um, just because I say like have multiple productive things that you could do at a time to choose from, um, I'm not necessarily meaning productive in the classic sense of the term. I mean, productive in whatever that, like, rest is productive too. That I'm just saying, don't forget that, you know. It can be like strategically, you know, um, and and be hard on yourself and push yourself, but be nice to yourself and allow yourself to legitimately recover, right? And that's a tightrope. Um, It says ADHD is often linked to hyperfocus, periods where you become almost obsessed with a task and lose track of time. Have you or someone you know experienced hyperfocus? If so, what kinds of tasks or situations trigger that for you? And the first time I answered this, I didn't mention sports. Um, I think sports, um, motorcycles, but like sports, like um like basketball, like I don't know, man. There has to be some of that. There has to be like in the Mamba mentality and like the way Jordan plays and shit like that, and like those psych like in those I almost want to say psychopathic freaking drive. There has to be some sort of they have to be harnessing a hyper focus, like in a similar way that a person with ADHD does. um because I mean, focusing on the rim is focusing on the rim. Like, it doesn't even like matter. Like, I don't even care. Like, it's we you once you're in hyper focus, like, you're so undistractable. It's like hours go by, and that's also the case in um creative endeavors. For me, I have this project that I'm working on. um Hours go by at a time. I can't really, unfortunately, I can't really speak on what it is right now. um but like I'm planning, like, I have something in my back pocket that I'm planning on being cooler than anything and everything that I've put out together. Like, I have something that I'm working on that's like it's gonna be like, it's hopefully it's something that I love, and it's something that I'm gonna love to bring to the world. And I think like it would be so cool to have um people exposed to it in the future. Anything that you're passionate about will trigger that. Should would Novelty, immediate feedback loops, um hence the fun of video games. You get those immediate feedback loops, like that triggers hyper focus in ADHD kids all day, right? um when you're not in that superpower zone, yeah, because I call hyper focus a superpower. I call it a superpower. um when you're not in that superpower zone, like working on something you're not passionate about, what do you find helps you the most to just get started anyways? So yeah, this goes back to options. I the answer once again is twofold. It's practice and limited mandates. Um, so I have a mandate to um I have a mandate to show up to work. I have a mandate to take care of my hygiene. I have a mandate to take care of my living environment. I have a mandate to work on my business, and I have a mandate to um to further my education. Um and and to exercise. I also have a mandate to exercise. So these um I practice. Those I have practiced the Nike logo on, uh meaning just do it. These are things like just do it. And but outside of that, um I leave um wiggle room in my schedule. I leave room for choices. I leave room for options. I leave room for, like, okay, well, I can go for a walk. I can work on this project. I can work on that project. I can take a nap. I can listen to some music. Like, I try to leave my options open so that I can use that other technique, which is putting myself in the shoes of somebody who's gonna do any one of these activities and seeing how it makes me feel and then making my decision that way. Right. I purposely try to set my life up in a way where this is part of the reason that I don't have uh some part of the reason that I don't really that I live a more secluded life outside of, working full time. Um it's because I don't need um the last thing I need is obligations to people. Um the that's the main way that I've reclaimed my time is by just, like, not having relationships. Um but I digress. Oh, it says many people with ADHD report struggling with emotional regulation, feeling everything more intensely, quick to frustration or excitement, or emotional whiplash. How does this show up for you or someone you know, and how do you usually handle it? Interesting thing about that is that I'm also um self-diagnosed um as a borderline. I um so I consider myself a borderline. Um so I don't, and they have the emotional regulation um issues to an extreme degree as well. That's their one of their main classifications is extreme volatility or extreme depth of emotional perception. Um, and so, like, I don't know which angle that emotional dysregulation comes from most in my specific example, whether it's the ADHD side, the BPD side. But you know I think in general, this is something that we kind of mature out of. Um, I think if you can survive, if you can survive, without ending up like, you know, if you can make it to older ages, um, with emotional regulation, type disorders, um, and I'd say maybe stay away from alcohol. I think that's generally good advice. Um, but I don't know. I think your consciousness gets tired of the volatility of emotion, and you kind of just calm down as you age. And I'm sure marijuana helps too, you know. Um, and then, okay, so then it prompted me. So we're talking about emotional regulation, and it's prompting me about, if I've ever ran into a situation where my emotions have gone like 0 to 100. And I can say that, yeah, with a lot of times with love interest, this is something that, um 0 to 100 for sure, for sure. And that idea made me want to bring up, um two communities. You know, as as a not as somebody who has dabbled in the pickup arts in the past, and somebody who's familiar with, the red pill community, and the, um more so I'm more so aimed at the alpha versus beta mindset type shit. Um, a lot of the people that are advertised to, or who gravitate towards, um, the pickup community, and henceforth the alpha versus beta mindset, um, are those who struggle with emotional regulation, um, attachment disorders, um, traumas, and, you know deeper interpersonal, um, issues than, um, than can be, uh, um, dealt with properly, um, with with with, with the with simple detachment. So a lot of the times, one of the main themes in pickup is the idea of detachment, and detachment is, a broader concept, a broader philosophical concept that has astronomical benefits. But when we're talking about emotional detachment from, uh, human interactions with the opposite sex, um, then we're starting from the wrong place right off the bat, right? When we're talking about, um, you know, not showing emotions and things of that, then we're not considering um, a huge swath of the of the population. But when that swath of the population are the ones that are being sent this message, they end up overcompensating in a dangerously narcissistic manner. Um, so I explained that to GPT, and it likens the alpha versus beta suppress your feelings mindset as like an armor. Um, and then it asked me if that armor approach ever actually helped me feel more secure. This whole idea of like, um, you know, this whole idea of the whole culture of the whole idea that how good does one rose smell in a garden, the whole idea of, you know, like I said earlier, just radical detachment um, has that helped, um, and the alpha beta type mindset, and it's like I don't know. I'm so far detached from that mindset. Like I see power struggles everywhere, and they're they're gross. Like I don't like how prevalent power struggles are in the way humans interact with each other in general. But yeah, no, I guess like maybe in my early 20s I felt like I was the shit because I could um successfully suppress my emotions towards women by objectifying them and by seeing them as um people not worthy of having those types of feelings towards, right? And that's yeah, yeah. I don't really want to get too much further into that. But it says, and I think we're coming up to the finish line here. I think I have one or two more questions here. It says some people with ADHD describe their mind as always on, even when they're trying to rest, like a mental hamster wheel that won't stop. Do you experience that? And what's the worst time of the day? Yeah, that's 24/7. It's a blessing and a curse. It's a blessing because it allows me to have, many ideas and many pursuits. And I feel like it's an enhancement to creativity. But it's a curse because obviously it's a curse if like your mind's just going all over the place all the time. Like um but yeah. And then yeah, this is any time of the day. It's typically consistent. Um, and I think time blindness, yes, that happens during hyperfocus. And I can we can wrap it up with this one. It asks how I typically wind down or transition out of that hamster whale mode. Any routines, rituals, or activities you find help slow it down? I find it funny to use the term like ritual in this context. Like you're just out there, like, yeah, I light a fire, I do a freaking dance to the sleep gods, and I spray some Himalayan salt over my freaking um, but not like I think just like just like making sure like because I'm always at the end of the day I'm always looking back and like counting the things that I've ended up doing, so like just exhaust your energy during the day, you know what I mean, just like um just keep doing stuff, like just keep doing things, like just keep trying to close out these tabs or working towards these tabs that are open and crossing T's and dotting I's. I'm out like just keep being productive. And then by the end of the day, I'm spent. By the time I go to sleep, my body wants to sleep, my mind wants to sleep. And then I'm like, I just, it took a lot of time. Like, I struggled with sleeping for mad long. I used to do melatonin. I used to do melatonin every night until somebody told me that melatonin doesn't help you fall asleep. It simply helps you stay asleep. And then I realized that I've been falling asleep using a placebo for years. And then I was able to fall asleep without it. And then, like, when it's sleep time, I just, like, I don't know. I go to, like, my own world and shit like that. Like, I go to my own world and then I'm tired and then I go to sleep. Um, But yeah, y'all, thank you for joining me. It's been real. Um, until until next week.